You pull that familiar jar of mayonnaise from your fridge door to make a batch of potato salad, trusting the classic label and the memories of your childhood kitchen. But flip the jar over. Instead of eggs and oil, the primary base is industrial canola or soybean oil, thickened with modified cornstarch and chemical wood pulp derivatives. Which of the top commercial brands in your pantry are faking your meals? Mayonnaise is supposed to be one of the simplest things in the culinary world. Oil, egg yolks, acid, and a pinch of salt. It is an ancient, delicate physical emulsion. When you make it by hand in your own kitchen, you know exactly what goes into the bowl. You see the golden yolks catch the light, you watch the steady stream of oil disappear into the mix, and you taste the bright, sharp finish of vinegar or lemon juice. But when you walk down the condiment aisle of any major Australian supermarket, convenience takes over. You grab a jar off the shelf because the label looks traditional, the price is right, and the brand has been a fixture in domestic cupboards for decades. Yet if you look closer at the back of the label, a quiet transformation has occurred over the years. Real eggs have vanished from the core of the recipe, replaced by modified starches, stabilizing gums, and massive vats of highly refined seed oils, engineered to sit on a dark warehouse shelf for 2 years without separating or spoiling. We are going to strip away the marketing gloss of 5 mass-market mayonnaise brands dominating Australian kitchens that rely on industrial chemistry rather than kitchen craft. Then we are going to pivot directly to 5 authentic Aussie-approved alternatives that get the recipe right. Let's inspect the jars. Mayonnaise relies on a fundamental scientific principle, the emulsification of oil droplets suspended in water, mediated by the phospholipids and proteins found in egg yolks, specifically lecithin. Lecithin acts as a molecular bridge, holding oil and vinegar together into a unified creamy colloid. But industrial food manufacturing hates the cost and biological volatility of real eggs. Fresh yolks spoil, they fluctuate wildly in price based on agricultural cycles, and they behave unpredictably under extreme factory processing and high-speed mechanical homogenization. So, food scientists invented a shortcut. By dropping the egg yolk content to near zero, manufacturers can create a watery mixture and use modified food starch, maltodextrin, and xanthan gum to physically trick your tongue into perceiving creaminess. When you expose this starch-thickened water matrix to warm ingredients, like freshly boiled potatoes or a hot burger patty, the physical structure collapses, weeping watery pools and oily separation. The label might feature a gorgeous golden yolk farm egg, but the ingredient panel tells the true story of industrial water binding. Let's begin our countdown of the 5 commercial mayonnaise brands you need to stop buying, starting with number 5, Praise Traditional Mayonnaise. A fixture in Australian cupboards for generations, Praise trades entirely on a wholesome domestic image, evoking images of sunny backyard barbecues and family Sunday roasts. Yet, turn the jar around, and the second ingredient right after water is canola oil, heavily backed by modified cornstarch and added sugar. When you run a tactile test on a warm plate, Praise quickly breaks down into a greasy film because the starch matrix cannot handle ambient heat without weeping moisture. The corporate machinery behind mass condiments treats moisture retention as an engineering problem rather than a culinary one, ensuring the product survives long transit times across interstate distribution networks at the direct expense of your palate's expectation of richness. The mouthfeel is thin and fleeting, leaving behind a gummy film rather than a clean, satisfying coat of natural fats. Moving to number 4, Kraft Traditional Mayonnaise brings international corporate scale into the local pantry. Kraft relies on heavily refined soybean oil, an industrial byproduct extracted from commodity crops using chemical solvents like hexane stabilized with propylene glycol alginate and artificial colorings to simulate the rich yellow hue of actual pastured eggs. The label feels reassuringly clinical and standardized, but the flavor profile is aggressively flat, leaning on high levels of acetic acid and added sugar to distract your taste buds from the absence of genuine egg fat. When you look at how this emulsion interacts with physical food, it fails to coat the tongue in a velvet layer, instead sliding off crisp lettuce leaves or ham slices as an oily residue that leaves your mouth feeling coated rather than satisfied. It is a mass-produced chemical compromise masquerading as a pantry staple. Number 3 on our avoid list is Goodman Fielder's Praise 98% fat-free mayonnaise, a masterclass in nutritional deception. To hit that coveted fat-free claim on the front panel, the egg yolks are completely eradicated from the formula. In their place is a dense slurry of water, modified potato and corn starches, sugar, and chemical gums designed to mimic mouthfeel through sheer viscosity. When you smear it on a sandwich, it behaves more like a translucent wallpaper paste than a condiment, sticking to the roof of your mouth with a gummy, synthetic residue that leaves a distinct metallic aftertaste. It represents the logical endpoint of industrial processing, substituting actual nutritional lipids with water-swollen starches that provide zero satiety, driving you to consume more while cheating your body of real food value. Number 2 brings us to Coles and Woolworths home brand standard mayonnaise jars. These private label budget staples are engineered purely for the lowest possible unit cost. Sourced from anonymous bulk refining plants, they utilize the cheapest available commodity oils and the bare legal minimum of pasteurized egg powder. If you look closely at how it spreads, it lacks any structural integrity, rolling into translucent blobs that slide right off a piece of protein, rather than clinging with a velvety texture. The economic pressure of supermarket home brands forces refiners to cut every conceivable corner, replacing legitimate culinary texture with mechanical homogenization that breaks apart the moment a knife touches it. You are paying pennies, but you are getting a matrix of water and industrial oil that adds nothing of value to your plate. And at number 1 on our avoid list is Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise, imported and heavily marketed across Australia as the gold standard of sandwich spreads. Despite the bold claim of being real right there on the front label, the Australian retail formulation leans heavily on soybean and canola oils as the dominant mass, utilizing concentrated lemon juice and sugar to artificially sharpen a profile that lacks the deep, natural richness of whole, free-range eggs. It is a triumph of marketing over material reality, sitting on supermarket shelves for ages while relying on industrial processing aids to maintain its uniform texture. When you break it down under a basic sensory test, it cannot compete with a true oil and yolk emulsion, proving that global branding often masks a fundamentally ordinary industrial formulation that charges a premium for a familiar blue ribbon. Before we transition to the clean list, remember what happens when cumulative negative analysis drains your energy. Imagine seeing a split-screen visual test comparing a starch-heavy commercial mayo melting into grease against a stable, rich artisan mayo holding its shape on a hot slice of protein. That physical proof restores our culinary expectations and brings us firmly onto the redemption path. Coming down our trust list at number 5 is Beerenberg Whole Egg Mayonnaise, crafted in the Adelaide Hills by a family-owned company that proudly refuses industrial shortcuts. Beerenberg uses real Australian whole free-range eggs and cold-pressed canola oil, achieving a genuine, stable emulsion through traditional mixing methods that hold up beautifully even when paired with warm foods. The tactile experience of a genuine whole egg emulsion is unmistakable. It grips the food, maintains its structural integrity under heat, and provides a rich, rounded mouthfeel that lingers pleasantly without any chemical aftertaste. It is real food, made by people who respect the ingredients. At number 4, boutique maker Pinot's Artisan Condiments steps in with a small batch whole egg recipe that uses high-grade, non-GMO oils and unrefined apple cider vinegar for a sharp, clean finish. Pinot's demonstrates how regional producers can scale traditional kitchen techniques without sacrificing ingredient integrity, offering a condiment that behaves the way mayonnaise was always intended to behave on a plate. The acidity is bright rather than sharp, cutting through rich proteins with a natural grace that mass-market producers simply cannot replicate in automated factories. At number 3, Caviar Mayonnaise Well Imported holds a legendary status across Australia for a very specific reason. Utilizes exclusively egg yolks rather than whole eggs and zero water or added sugar, creating an intensely rich, umami-forward emulsion that respects the ancient physics of the condiment. By omitting water entirely from the vessel, Capi forces the oil and yolk into a tight, dense colloid that delivers an extraordinary depth of flavor with just a small amount on the plate. It is a masterclass in how honoring the traditional high-yolk ratio creates a product that transforms everyday dishes into something remarkable. At number 2, the Proper Crisps and Condiments line features a transparent local recipe utilizing pasture-raised Victorian eggs and high-integrity sunflower oil, free from any modified starches or chemical stabilizers. Their commitment to transparent farmgate sourcing means you know exactly where the protein came from, transforming a simple kitchen staple into a vote for sustainable, ethical local agriculture. When you spread it, the texture is smooth, glossy, and substantial, clinging to your food with the natural weight of honest ingredients. And at number 1 on our trust list is Meredith Dairy's artisanal condiment line, alongside elite local independent makers like Organics, which provides a certified organic vinegar and whole egg masterpiece that delivers pure, uncompromised flavor. It stands as the ultimate counter-argument to the industrial condiment aisle, proving that when you respect the emulsion, you don't need chemistry or starches to make food taste exceptional. What you use to bind your food is a reflection of how you treat your basic nutrition. Accepting industrial starches disguised as creaminess is an unnecessary compromise. Stop trusting supermarket packaging tricks, read the ingredient panel, demand whole eggs, and reject refined seed oil fillers. The next time you prep a family meal, check what is holding your dressing together before it touches the plate.